Welcome to a tutorial video from Too Tall Toby's practice models. This is dated May 4th. This is a side clamp arm. So this is a fairly simple model. We're going to design this in IronCAD, so we're going to show you how to do this, and we probably are only going to use one sketch to modify basically to build this rib here. Everything else we can use our standard drag and drop features from IronCAD, and I'll show you how to do some of that here in IronCAD. So just a couple of things they noted here were just some tangencies for that rib components. This is placed out a certain distance from center, and basically just pretty much everything else is just called out here fairly common in the model. So anyway, so we'll go ahead and build this in IronCAD, and we'll go ahead and hop over here. All right, first thing we're going to start off with, basically we're going to start with that main cylinder. So we're going to drag and drop the cylinder out and just give it its size, which they gave us as 3.75 as the diameter, and the width of that is 2. So I'm just typing in the values and hitting enter, and that's toggling between my handles. So that's my radius handle, and that last one was my width handle. So that's kind of my starting point here. Next thing is I'm going to actually put this piece out here. That's our I guess our little clamp piece here. So we're just going to drag and drop and extrude onto this face. And I'm going to go ahead and set the values for that. So we know the width of this is 1, this is in inches, sorry, 1 inch unit that way, and it's 2 inches high. So I'm going to type in 2 here as well. And we know the width of this thing is actually 3.5. So we'll go ahead and set those variables here. So what I'm going to do is actually use the TriBall to position this thing, which is really neat. So we're just going to turn on the TriBall for this feature, and we're going to position it a couple things here. So one, I'm just going to save myself from rotating. I'm just going to move it to this back edge here first, so that I can put this at the center point of this cylinder. So I'm just going to move and hold the shift key down to snap that to the center. And now that I have that, I'm also want to get the bottom edge down here to the bottom of our cylinder. So we're just going to snap that down to that quadrant point of our cylinder. So now we're tangent to that. And we know that since we're in the middle here, we want to put this in the middle of this. So we can just do a couple things here. We can just snap it to here, and we know that's 2 inches here. So I just move it in 1 unit. So that gives us basically our starting point. So I could have designed it from that point to begin with, but I'm just showing you how to use this with the TriBall. And the last thing we have to do is just move this out 4 inches from that distance. So that kind of gives us our offset location for that geometry. Next, we'll just go ahead and do this rib feature. Essentially kind of the same approach here, so we could drag and drop it multiple paces. I'm just going to drag and drop it onto the center here, and we know that we need to position this out to this face here, so I'm just going to snap that out, and we're going to snap it down to the quadrant here at the end of this, or actually just to the center of this here, and then we can snap this down to the bottom. There we go. So now we've got that aligned to the bottom, and we need to position this thing. So we do know that this is a width of 0.5, so we'll go ahead and type in that value, and now we want to position this. So we already have this one in the location that we need, so we can just actually just use the TriBall on here, and we're just going to basically hit the space bar to reposition the TriBall. I'll show you where we're going to move it over to the midpoint, and then we can hit the space bar again to now move that shape to we want to do the midpoint of this edge here to get that location. So now we're in the middle location there as well. If we want, we can snap this down to this location here to save us a step. We can snap that there, and now we just need to make the tangency on the top of that. So that's where we're going to edit the cross section of this, and we can do that by hitting Alt-E or Alt-E to edit the cross section, or you can also right click and select edit cross section. Next, we just want to make this tangent up here. So what we're going to do is just going to project this as construction, so we have a reference location. And then we're just going to basically do a tangency of this curve up to here to get that location. So now we have that tangency there. This is tangency, the blue one here is just not a constraint. And then we have our 2 points there. So that's basically all we needed to do to create that. And we can hit finish. We've got that shape built. Okay, next we can build some other shapes. Again, we're just going to continue to drag and drop some shapes out here. I'm going to build this top piece off of here. So I'm going to drop right onto that center point. There, and we know the width of this is, we're going to right click and drag this to set it symmetrically. 1.5 is the width of that, and we know we need to have a handle to the other side, so I'm just going to snap this here and here because it's the same width of this, And what we want to do is make this bottom handle to our center point. So that's our reference location. And we know the height of this is 2.5. So we're going to set the height from that location. So it's essentially just doing an offset with those handles by aligning it to a reference location and you're offsetting it. Next, we'll just go ahead and add that cylinder on here. So we'll put that cylinder. We'll flip the direction to go the other way. We'll snap this out to the outside and snap it back to here. So that's holding the shift key, pulling the handle to snap those. So that kind of gives us our shape there for that. So again, this width of this guy is 1.5 for that inside of there, and it's the two. It's smooth to connect on both sides. Next, we'll go ahead and do some of our cutouts here. So we'll just do an extrude cut here on the center point. Again, it doesn't really matter what we're doing here, where it's placed on this, because we're just going to pull it up through the top. We know the width of this, however, is a 0.25 width inside of there, and I'm just going to pull that up to cut that piece out. Next, I can go ahead and add a cylinder here, and I can't get my center point anymore, so I'm just going to drag to the arc of that cylinder, hold the shift key down, and it'll snap it right to the center for us. So now that I've got that, I just need to put the value for the diameter of that, which is, let me look for that one, is 2.375 for that diameter. And again, make sure we pull this through, or we could use the through all if we wanted to get that. So that gives us our cutout there for that. Next, we have a cutout over here. So we'll just do this extrude through, and we're just going to drag it on that point. And what we know is there's a distance from here and a distance from here, so we don't know the actual height of this. So what I'm just going to simply do is right click, add the distance from this point, and it says it's supposed to be 0.65 from that side, and 0.75 at a distance from here. It's got a distance of 0.75 from there. So we can just use that to get our location for that shape. Next, we'll go ahead and add our blend feature here. So we have it blend on each end, or fillet in some other systems. We just right click and click on blend, and it's a 0.625 on those two, and go ahead and hit OK. Now we'll go ahead and add some holes here. So I'm going to add a cylinder cut here, which has a diameter of 0.55. And it needs to have a copy of the other side, so I'm just going to use the TriBall. I could use a mirror command, but we'll just use a TriBall. What I'm going to do is right click that center point and drag and drop it and snap to this edge by holding the shift key. I can now create a linked copy, or just a copy of that shape to the other side there. So that gives us our holes on both locations there. And then last, we need to add our hole in our hex cut here on the top. So we're going to head and do a through cut here on this center point again. That has a diameter of 0.625. And we want to do a hex cut here. So one of the things we have in our catalogs, we have multiple catalogs that are delivered with IronCAD. You can click on this to see some of those catalogs. But we have an advanced shapes here, and one of those is a poly cut. It's also in our starter under polys as well. But you can just drag and drop this shape out. And what we're going to do is go right click on that and go to the IntelliShape properties. And there's variables for these. So these advanced shapes, all these have variables that you can drive different things like caps, taper angles, and the number of sides. In our case, it's a hexagon, so I have 6 sides on that. And then we just need to set the width of this, which is 1, and the depth on this guy is 0.25 for that. So that's all it takes to create that hexagon. We don't have to go into any sketches to do that because we already have that shape there for us. So this is essentially our model here. So this is what we've built. And if we go into our properties, we can select into our mass density, which is 7800, which gives us a mass of about 6.82 or 0.83 inside of there. So that's basically how you build this model in IronCAD. Fairly simple shape to build. Inside of here, again, we only had to go into the cross-section once just to edit this tangency here to make a tangent there. But other than that, everything else is just done through our drag and drops capabilities from IronCAD's catalogs, whether it's the starter catalogs or some of our advanced shape catalogs. Hopefully you enjoyed.